Hey guys, welcome to Android Firebase Authentication Masterclass. And in this class, we are going to learn how to authenticate a user using Firebase. As you can see here in my demo application, the user provides email and password and then clicks login button. Then we call Firebase SDK and try to authenticate the user. If the user is new, he or she has the option to create account by clicking create account. This activity will appear and then user provides the email, password and confirm password. Once user details are saved, the user can get back to sign in screen and then authenticate him or herself. So let's check what we are going to cover within this masterclass. So here is our course overview. We'll begin by introducing the course, and within the introduction, we are going to use the demo application to create a new user, sign in user, sign out user, check if user is signed in, and then view created users. We are going to create and set up Android project. Here we are going to create a new Android project, configure the theme that we want to use, create login activity, create register activity, and then create dashboard activity. We are going to set up Firebase. Here we are going to create a Firebase project to connect to our application. We are going to register our app with Firebase. We are going to add Firebase configuration file to our application, and we are going to add Firebase SDK to our app. Finally, we are going to perform authentication. Here, we are going to check if the user is logged in. We are going to create a new user using the app that we've been developing within this course. Then we are going to sign in user and sign out user. So that's all. Let's start by introduction. We are going to use this demo application to create a new user. So click create account and then provide the email. I'm going to use learn@gmail.com as my test email. For password, I'm going to have pass@123, confirm password, pass@123, and then I'm going to sign up. Once you sign up, the app will redirect you to sign in screen. Now to log in, I'm going to use the same email, learn@gmail.com, and for password, I'm going to have pass@123. Then I'm going to click login. Login failed. Let's check. This should be capital P. Pass@123. Click login. Once login is successful, the app will direct you to dashboard, and within the dashboard, you will get a welcome with the email that was used to sign in. So to sign out user, just click sign out. To view created user, go to your Firebase console. For example, I had only one user and then I created learn@gmail.com. So when I refresh this one, I get learn@gmail.com. So that's all that we are going to cover within this course. Inside your main activity, define your Firebase Auth. So I'm going to have private latent val auth of type Firebase Auth. Remember, we are using view binding for instead of using find view by ID. So I'll just take you through what is view binding. So as you can see here, view binding is a feature that allows you to more easily write code that interacts with the view. Once view binding is enabled in a module, it generates a binding class for each XML file present in that module. An instance of the binding class contains direct reference to all views that have an ID in the corresponding layout. So we did add this one in our manifest file, in our Gradle build file, it's here. Then inside our layout, what we need to do is to define IDs. So I'm just going to go to my activity main and give this one an ID. So I'm going to have TV, welcome, And then you can follow this guide, see how you will be able to instantiate our binding and how you're going to find view using the binding. So I'm going to do that in my main activity. Just have private let init val binding, and I'm binding activity main binding, and then inside here I'm going to have binding is equals to activity main binding dot inflate layout inflator. Then I'm going to have val view is equals to binding dot get loot, and then set content view. We are going to return the view. So you can learn more from this one. It's here, the same thing that I've done in our project. The next thing that I'm going to have is private fun initiate or init data, and the thing that I'm going to have is auth is equals to Firebase Auth dot get instance. I'm going to have another method here, private fun check if user is logged in, and I'm going to have val current user with auth dot get current user. So here below, if current user not equals to null, then what we are going to do is start activity, and then I'm going to have intent. I'm going to move from this activity, and I'm going to direct the user to dashboard activity class.java, and I'm going to finish this class completely. If else here, this is when the user is logged in, else we are going to direct user to our login activity. So here I'm going to call this method, and then the initiate all my init data, I'm going to call it here. So all these, if I go back here to my Firebase and I look for Android, I go down after adding configuration, setting up everything. It's usually documented somewhere. It's here, authentication. So you define your Firebase authentication, it's here, and then on start you check if the current user is logged in or not. And then this is for create user, and this is for sign in user. So we are going to use all these methods as we proceed. So let's first test this one. So as you can see, our app has launched, and what we are getting here is login or sign in screen. This is because we don't have a currently logged in user. So what we are going to do is start by creating a new user. So I'm going to add a listener here. To do so, I'm going to use view binding. So go here. Let's give this one an ID. And the ID that I'm going to give this one is LL new user. So I'm going to go back and define my view binding. So I'm going to have private let init binding, and this one will be activity login. Then on create, I'm going to have binding is equals to activity login dot inflate layout inflator. I'm going to define val view, which will be binding dot get loot, and then I'm going to set my content view as view. I'm going to define private here fun init data, Here down, I'm going to have another function which will be private fun click listener. And what I'm going to do here is have my binding. As you can see in our activity login, we have LL-user.set on click listener. And when you click that, we are going to start a new activity. So I'm going to have intent. And I'm going to move from this to my register activity class Java. Then here down, I'm going to call finish. So this one will happen once I'm able to init my data, and then I'm going to call my data here. So this is all we need. So let's learn. There we are. So create account, we get register activity, and now we are going to save our user to our Firebase. Let's review what Firebase says when you want to create a new user. So sign up new users, that is create account method that takes in an email, address, and a password, validates them, and then creates a new user using create user with email and password. So here we have create user with email and password, where you provide email and password. So let's go to our register activity, and here we're going to define private let init auth, and this is of type Firebase auth. Then we are going to have private let init val binding, and this should be activity register binding. Inside here, I'm going to have auth, and I'm going to have Firebase auth.get instance. Then I'm going to have binding, which will be our activity. This is not login, it's activity register, and should be activity register dot infrate layout infrater. And then we have val view, which will be binding dot loot, and I'm going to set content view for this view. Here below, we are going to have private in fun init data for initializing my data, and I'm going to have auth to be Firebase auth.get instance, and then I'm going to have to call this one just below here. I'm going to create another method called private fun click listener, and within the click listener, we want to listen to this button. This is button register. Remember to change from button login to button register. And we also want to click when a user clicks this one. So I'm going to give this one ID. It's this one. And I'm going to have LL have account. This one we have it's etc password, et password, and then we have et email. Back to my register activity, and then I'm going to have binding dot button register dot set on click listener. So I'm going to have binding dot ll have account dot set on click listener. I'm going to call this one here, and then I'm going to have another function private fun. This time we are going to have get email and or create, let's call it create user. And within the create user, we are going to have if, let's first get the email. So I'm going to have val email will be binding dot email dot text dot to string, and then I'm going to have val password, which will be binding dot eating password text to string. We're going to have finally val c password. This is for confirm password, which will be binding etc and then text and then to string. I'm going to check if email dot is not null and password dot is not null or is not empty, and c password dot is not empty. Then we are going to authentic all save user details, else we want to say toast dot make text this, and then I'm going to have a message all inputs required, and finally I'm going to have toast dot length short or long dot show. So when you click our button register, we are going to create user. Then here below I need to have another method called private fun save user. Before we save user, we need to have another check here. If password dot equal c password, then we save user, else just show toast tell user password mismatch. We can clean up this one to equal. In our save method, we require email of type string, and we require password of type string. So what we are going to do here is have our auth dot create user with the email and password. We are going to give it email and we are going to give it password. We are going to add on complete listener, and within this one I'm going to say if it dot is successful, I'm going to show success, else I'm going to show failure message. So call your method save user here and assign it our email and password. So let's check the result. I'm going to have a simple function here, private fun check results, and it picks a success of type boolean. Now if the result is successful, so if is successful, we are going to redirect user to login activity so that we can log in. So I'm going to have this, and then I'm going to have login activity, then class, and I'm going to finish. Else if not successful, I'm going to show a toast message, and we are going to say unable to create your account. So I'm going to check this one here. I'm going to pass it.is successful, so I can remove this one. So let's test whether we'll be able to create a new user. So learn your project, create account. For the email, I'm going to have learn@gmail.com. I'm going to have pass 8123, and I'm going to have pass 8123. Then create account. As you can see, we have been redirected to sign in activity, meaning creating account was successful. Let's check if we can be able to see the user details of the created user. Just go to authentication, There we are. You have learn@gmail.com. So now let's try to log in. To log in, let's see what Firebase says when you want to sign in existing user. Create a new sign-in method which takes email address and password, validate them, and then sign in a user using sign-in email and password. So go to your activity login. Let's see, this is ET email, AT password, button login. Then, so we are going to have here, define Firebase Auth, that is Firebase Auth. Within the initiate data, we are going to have Auth is equals to Firebase Auth dot get instance. Then here binding dot button login dot set on click listener. And when you click, I'm going to have private fun get user data. Here we are going to have val email, which will be binding dot it email dot text dot string, and then we are going to have val password, which will be binding dot it password dot text dot to string. I'm going to check if the user has provided. If email is not null and password is not null, what you are going to do is authenticate auth user, else we are going to show a toast. So I'm going to have toast dot make text from this. Then we are going to say authentication failed. You can add a custom message, the one you want user to see, and then let's remove this one dot show, and then create another function, private fun auth user, and this one will require email of type string and will require password of type string. What I'm going to do is have my auth dot sign in user with email and password. I'm going to pass my email, password. Then I'm going to add on complete listener. Finally, we're going to have private fun check result, and this one will take a boolean is success of type boolean, and if a success, we are going to direct user to dashboard. So we're going to start activity intent this, and we are going to go to dashboard, and then that is clash, and then we are going to finish. Else we are going to tell the user toast. Actually, this is not authentication failed. This should, because it's checking the null, so all inputs required. Then have here toast dot make text, and we are going to do context this. Here it's where now we are going to tell user authentication failed, toast dot length long dot show. So this one we are going to call it here, and we are going to have it.a successful, and then for authenticating user we are going to call it here, and we are going to pass email and password. Then get user data. Now get user data. So get user data when the user clicks button login. Now let's test our application. Click Learn. Here we are. Welcome. So welcome is our dashboard. The reason why app directed us to dashboard is because there is a currently logged in user. So once we created a user, I think Firebase saved the session, and now the user is assumed to be logged in. So because we want to test sign in, what I'm going to do is auth.signout. So there we are. We can now test our user sign in. So let's remove this one. It wasn't necessary. It was only to help us sign out the currently logged in user so that we can get to login activity. So to test this one, remember our user that we have created is learn@gmail.com, and we have pass @123. Click login. There we are at dashboard. So we have been able to complete the sign in with Firebase. The next thing that we are going to do is inside dashboard, we are going to implement a check for the current user and add here welcome the currently logged in user email. We will begin by checking what Firebase says when you want to get data for the current user. So check current auth state. So on start, just check auth current user, and then you can get the data. So in our dashboard activity, I'll begin by defining two things. So I'll have private, and then I'm going to have auth or Firebase auth. Then I'm going to have private binding of activity dashboard binding. Here we are going to have binding will be activity binding.infrate layout infrater, and then I'm going to have val loot will be binding.getLoot, and then this one you can call it view or loot. Let's use view. Set content view, and then I'm going to have that view. So here private fun, my initiate or init data, and then I'm going to have auth is equals to Firebase dot get instance. So here what we need to do is private fun get user data, get current user, and we are going to return type string. I'm going to have val current user, which will be auth dot current user, and then if current user not equal to null, I'm going to return my email. Get current user, we can extend email, else here we return null, and here, so this can be nullable, and this one we are going to return current user dot email. We can clean up this code. Let's see. Okay, here we are going to have private set login set user email. This one will require our binding dot, let's get the ID here. I'm going to give this ID TV user email. So have binding.tv user email dot text will be get cut. We start with welcome plus get current user email. This is private fun. This one, I'm going to set it here after initiating my data. Then for initiate data, I'm going to call it here. So that's all we need. So let's learn. Welcome learn@gmail.com. The final thing that we are going to do is to sign out user. To sign out a user, we need to add a button here in our activity dashboard. So I'm going to have button, match parent, lab content, and the text that I'm going to give it is sign out. And I'm going to give it a start of parent, end of parent, top of parent. Okay, let's position it actually bottom. So I'm going to have bottom of parent. Now give it an ID and it should be button sign out. For the height, I can just give this 160. ID at ID button sign out. Back to my dashboard activity, and I'm going to define private have fun on all click listener, and then I'm going to have binding dot button sign out dot set on click listener. When you click, I'm going to say auth dot sign out, and I'm going to start activity intent this back to my login activity class Java, and I'm going to finish completely. This one I'm just going to call it here. So let's test this one. Welcome learn. So if I say sign out, there we are. If I say create account, and I come and create a new account like richard@gmail.com, and I say the password is pass8123, pass8123. Remember, you can hide the password by clicking this, and then create account. I'm able to go here and just create account richard@gmail.com, pass8123. Then I'm able to log in, welcome richard@gmail.com. I can be able to sign out. So this is all that we needed to learn in this masterclass. If you have a question, please feel free to reach us through our email and we will gladly assist. Thank you all. Now let's set up Firebase. So first thing, we are going to create a Firebase project. So go to your browser. Remember, this is the demo project. So I'm going to go to Firebase and add project. Give your project a name. For this case, I'm going to have Firebase Auth. Click next. Click continue. Select account. You can use the default one. And then give it a few seconds to finish up creating your project. So once the project is ready, click continue. Then you'll get this information that get started by adding Firebase to your app. Click Android logo, then register your application. So to register your application, you need Android package name. So go to your project, manifest, and copy the package name. Then nickname, for this case, you can just say Firebase Auth. The digital debug signing certificate, I'll just use the autocomplete one, and then I'm going to register app. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to download the config file. And then I'm going to copy it and paste in my app folder. The next thing I'll click next is to add Firebase SDK to our project. So here in your project level build Gradle, check whether you have Google configured. So go to your Gradle script, and then we check within the repository we have Google. Then within the dependencies we need to add this line. So in our dependency we'll add this one. And then within the all project repositories, check whether you have Google. It's added. Then select whether you're using Java or Kotlin. In this case, it's Kotlin. In the app level build Gradle, we are going to add this line, that is Google GSM, Google services. So I'm going to copy this one, go to my app level. Then I'm going to have ID. So I'm going to remove this one and this one too. Then finally, you need to import Firebase BOM. And you also need to add Firebase Analytics. Then sync your project. That was successful. So the next thing that you are going to do, click next and continue to console. So I'm going to go to authentication. You'll see authentication, click get started and click email/password, enable, and then save. So that's all we need for authentication and adding Firebase to our project. So the next thing that we need now to do, let's go to here, Firebase documentation. It says once you register your app with Firebase, add Firebase configuration file. We have done that, but now we need to add SDK for authentication. So we are going to copy the authentication dependency here, and I'm going to paste it in my Gradle. Then sync your project, and that's all you need to finish up your Firebase configuration. So now we are going to proceed and start authentication. Hey guys, welcome to Android Firebase Authentication Masterclass. And in this class, we are going to learn how to authenticate a user using Firebase. As you can see here in my demo application, the user provides email and password and then clicks login button. Then we call Firebase SDK and try to authenticate the user. If the user is new, he or she has the option to create account by clicking create account. This activity will appear and then user provides the email, password, and confirm password. Once user details are saved, the user can get back to sign-in screen and then authenticate him or herself. So let's check what we are going to cover within this masterclass. So here is our course overview. We'll begin by introducing the course, and within the introduction, we are going to use the demo application to create a new user, sign in user, sign out user, check if user is signed in, and then view created users. We are going to create and set up Android project. Here we are going to create a new Android project, configure the theme that we want to use, create login activity, create register activity, and then create dashboard activity. We are going to set up Firebase. Here we are going to create a Firebase project to connect to our application. We are going to register our app with Firebase. We are going to add Firebase configuration file to our application, and we are going to add Firebase SDK to our app. Finally, we are going to perform authentication. Here, we are going to check if the user is logged in. We are going to create a new user using the app that we've been developing within this course. Then we are going to sign in user and sign out user. So that's all. Let's start by introduction. We are going to use this demo application to create a new user. So click create account and then provide the email. I'm going to use learn@gmail.com as my test email. For password, I'm going to have pass@123. Confirm password, pass@123. And then I'm going to sign up. Once you sign up, the app will redirect you to sign in screen. Now to log in, I'm going to use the same email, learn@gmail.com. And for password, I'm going to have pass@123. Then I'm going to click login. Login failed. Let's check. This should be capital P. Pass@123. Click login. Once login is successful, the app will direct you to dashboard, and within the dashboard, you will get a welcome with the email that was used to sign in. So to sign out user, just click sign out. To view created user, go to your Firebase console. For example, I had only one user, and then I created learn@gmail.com. So when I refresh this one, I get learn@gmail.com. So that's all that we are going to cover within this course.